Coming up next, we're going to count down the top 10 songs of this very same week from the year 1985. Now, after we count them down, we're going to recalibrate them based on their all-time performance up to this very day. We're going to show you what the real top 10 is. We're going to include memories from you and exclusive artist commentary on these songs. This one's really cool because you have a bunch of heavyweights going toe-to-toe. Who's the real number one? Is it a hard rock band? Is it a new wave group? Is it a one-hit wonder or a power ballad? You're going to find out next on the hit song Redux. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Make sure that you subscribe below right now to be a part of our Music History Daily. Straight from the artist, check the box so you never miss out on our exclusive content. Also, check us out on Patreon. You can click on the link in the description, and you can also see our new merch below, including this Professor of Rock sweater. So it's time for another edition of our show, the hit song Redux. This is where we travel back to a week in the golden era of the rock and roll era, and we recalibrate the top 10 songs of that specific week based on their legacy since their peak position on the Billboard Hot 100. This isn't my top 10, this is the actual top 10. We include your stories, your dedications, and many of the artists are commenting on their own song. We're going to find out what the real number one hit is as we continue to be astonished at how much better music was in this era versus present-day mainstream music. This show was invented as a tip of the hat to my hero Casey Kasem, and this time we travel back to March of 1985. So at the cinemas at that moment, you had a choice between seeing the John Hughes classic, The Breakfast Club.
Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
Give you the answer to that.
Or Eddie Murphy as Axel F. in Beverly Hills Cop.
Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop.
Or Harrison Ford in Witness.
Harrison Ford and Kelly McGillis. Witness.
Back then we actually had original movies. The sequels would come later.
Totally retro, which I love. You put a really good package together.
On television, Alex Trebek was in his first season hosting Jeopardy!
This is Jeopardy!
You also had the first seasons of Who's the Boss? Charles in Charge. And Crockett and Tubbs on Miami Vice. So let's go ahead and get into the countdown. Coming in at number 10, it's a former frontman of a multi-platinum band who was sued. He was sued for sounding too much like, well, himself. It's John Fogerty with The Old Man Down the Road.
The old man is down the road.
The Old Man Down the Road deals with John Fogerty's legal woes, which weighed on him for over a decade. There was a contract that he signed early on in his career that forced him to relinquish the rights to his Creedence Clearwater Revival songs.
On the corner, out in the street, playing the folk.
While at the same time, it made him keep recording new material. After CCR broke up, he was so frustrated with the industry that he refused to play the Creedence songs, mostly because they were really happy and joyful, and he wasn't feeling that at all. Really sad that we probably missed out on some great stuff from John Fogerty during those years. John Fogerty once said, "It tells the story about a man standing in your way with a suitcase covered in rattlesnake hide, eyes as black as coal."
He got the eyes black as coal. He got a...
In his case, this demon is the record company. To make matters worse, John Fogerty was sued because his accuser alleged that this song sounded too much like CCR's Run Through the Jungle. This is one we're going to have to cover in depth very soon. I'll do that. I won't give away too much, although the song did help revive Fogerty's career. It gave him a presence on MTV where he gained a whole new following. It's had 29 million streams since its peak. Coming in at number 9, it's It's a song that was part of the famous Parents Music Resource Center's Filthy 15. Do you remember that? It's written by Prince. It's the goddess-like Sheena Easton, my first crush, with Sugar Walls. Like I said, this song was written especially for Sheena Easton by the Purple One. He wrote it under his alias Alexander Nevermind. Their liaison came about as engineer David Leonard was working on both her album Private Heaven and his Purple Rain. Sheena was unsure about going to Prince directly for a collaboration, so she asked Leonard if he'd pass on a message. Now, much to her surprise, Prince responded by sending her the backing tracks for this controversial song. She said that she loved it. It flipped me out. I called him up and he said, "Would you like to come over and sing it?" So I went in and did the vocals after I'd had a Super Bowl Sunday barbecue at my house.
Super Bowl 18, a matchup between the two best teams in the National Football.
She says, I won $50 on the Super Bowl and I got to do a vocal with Prince. Pretty big day for me, I would say so. Easton would remember Prince as being quiet and relatively shy. This is something they had in common. Now, as far as Tipper Gore and the PMRC was concerned,
I decided to get involved because I began to see the kind of rock lyrics that my kids were being exposed to.
this was a very naughty song, and they listed it as part of the Filthy 15, if you remember that. We got to do a show on that, too. The Elite said these songs were indecent because of their explicit lyrics. Remember Twisted Sister and Wasp and others were part of this.
Mr. Snyder, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
Do you think that now there is adequate basis for parents to know what's on the records that their kids are buying?
I don't think that the majority of parents are in reality as concerned as the PMRC or myself.
I mean, the explicit lyrics and them making a big deal just made us want to listen to them more.
I can tell you want me.
Going into the number 8 spot, we have one of the coolest duets of the year with two heavyweights of pop and soul. It's Philip Bailey of Earth, Wind & Fire and Phil Collins with Easy Lover. Now, it was written and composed by Bailey Collins and the great Nathan East. The song first appeared on Bailey's solo album called Chinese Wall. It would be Bailey's only solo hit, actually. Apparently, in early summer of 1984, Philip Bailey flew over from Los Angeles checking into Bramley Grange, which was close to Phil Collins' home. Both of them tinkered away at writing songs together, but with so many people involved, it proved to be a challenge. There were just too many cooks in the kitchen. But in the end, they did finish this ditty. In fact, it happened at the very tail end of the sessions. It was originally called Choosy Lover, which became the working title. They changed it. They hurriedly recorded a rough and energetic take at the very end of the night, and they were very enthusiastic the very next morning because most of it ended up being in the final version. This is another one that we're going to have to cover in depth on our show Dose. There was a lot of people from our music community that loved this one. Screen name JB Threat said, "Easy Lover is to me one of the quintessential songs of the 80s. Two of the most recognizable voices in music with a pop soul collab that makes your feet tap, puts a smile on your face, and that I always sing along with. The music video is just as awesome as the song is. It's my go-to karaoke duet song. I sing Bailey's parts. The song is so good. It's part of my ultimate playlist, and that's really saying something." And we had a comment from screen name XX Lily Plays XX Kiz. I hope I said that right. She said, "I found Easy Lover during the pandemic by myself while looking for 80s music videos that I hadn't seen before."
Interesting, because you're doing a video, making a video of making a video. You know, there's lots of things going on at the same time.
I was very interested when I found out that the video was one of the many MTV staples of 1985, and I wished I had been around during that time when they only played music videos and didn't have all this reality TV that they do today. Nowadays, I look on YouTube and the Internet archives to find old MTV clips from the 80s. Sounds like you might be a little bit younger. Keep doing that. It's the best stuff. Now, as we go into the number 7 spot, I do want to recognize our awesome sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. They support our mission of keeping the music alive. Right now, when you go to Zenni.com, you can get a pair of glasses for $6.95. I'm not kidding. You can choose from numerous styles, colors, shapes. Just go to Zenni.com and get your pair today, and make sure to add some of their amazing features like blue blocks. That's been a game changer for me. So at number 7, we have the Lion of Rock with one of his legendary performances with a band that should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They should have been ages ago. It's I Wanna Know What Love Is by Foreigner. Foreigner guitarist Mick Jones wrote this song, and then lead singer Lou Gramm breathed life into it in what may be his master vocal.
It keeps me warm as life grows colder.
Here's what Mick Jones said about the song in a phone interview that I did with him a few years back.
It was late at night. I couldn't make too much noise, although I had a little soundproof room. So I was playing quite softly. I just happened on these 3 chords as the intro for the song.
Gotta take a little time. A little time.
I didn't know what it was when it came to me. There was nothing I had in mind, really. I had a special feeling about it. So I went into the bedroom and woke up my wife at the time, 2 or 3 in the morning. And I said, listen, I've got this great song. I think it's a great idea for a song. I've just written 3 or 4 words. Will you listen to it? And we both listened to it together. And she looked at me with a bit of a frown. She said, what do you mean by you want to know what love is? And I said, no, darling, no. This is a different thing. This is more like universal love. And I'm learning new things every day.
Lou Gramm, at his peak, was one of the best ever, no question. By the way, you can see Lou Gramm up close and personal singing the big Foreigner hits with me at Professor of Rock Live. He's coming this July. You can get tickets here and below in the description. This is another song that really connected with our community. Viewer Jim Dawson said, I remember listening to I Want to Know What Love Is with my family on the way to Lake Tahoe for a family weekend. We had a Chevy Blazer, and me being the youngest would have to sit in the very back of the Blazer. No seat or seatbelt, just carpet. My 2 older sisters would sing it at the top of their lungs.
I wanna know what love is.
Every time I hear that, it puts me right back in the back of that truck smiling as my sisters sing.
I want you to show me.
Viewer Di Ramirez said, I Want to Know What Love Is resonated as I waited to meet the man that I met in March 1986, who became my husband 2 years later. I just didn't know the difference between infatuation with the couple of idiots whom I went out with and actual love. We both love this song, and so many years later, we are still together. I guess we found out what love is. I love you, Arturo. We're going to dedicate this from Di to Arturo. And one of my favorite stories that I've ever read on our comments section, viewer Kelly Rogers said, Spring 1985, I was 9 years old and I had a crush on a girl in school. I love music and I love making mixtapes. I used a brand new blank tape that would have held 80 minutes worth of music to record one song. I Want to Know What Love Is. And I gave it to the girl with a note. She said thank you and then never spoke to me for the remaining 8 weeks before summer started. I changed schools the next school year and I didn't see her again for almost 30 years. Winter 2012 to be exact. I was 36. I was in a Target in my same hometown and I hear a voice ask, did you ever find out what love is? Followed by a little chuckle. I turned and there she was, my 9-year-old crush. We had a great chat and I was honored that she recognized me and still remembered my little gesture so many years later. Now that is cool. Very cool story. At the number 6 slot this week, 37 years ago, is a movie song by one of the 80s greatest trios. It's Neutron Dance by the soulful and electric Pointer Sisters.
Burning, doing the Neutron Dance.
The late Allie Willis, who wrote Earth, Wind & Fire's hits September and Boogie Wonderland, among many other hits. She came up with the lyrics for this song. Willis sums it up when she says, basically, if your life isn't working, get up off your butt and change it because it's really up to you. This song was, of course, written for the Eddie Murphy comedy that I previously mentioned, the blockbuster Beverly Hills Cop.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Actually, this song opens up the movie, if memory serves. This song was released at the height of tensions within the Cold War between the US and Russia. Both had nuclear missiles aimed at one another. Willis said at that time that she wrote this, "The Russian government named me as one of the most dangerous people living in the United States because they mistranslated it as neutron bomb. It's the first verse they translated as a powerful nuclear explosion is approaching. It will annihilate everyone. Who cares if you have no car, no job, no money, just dance, dance, dance." And this was a huge article in Pravda, and I was supposed to be going to Russia with BMI, and I wasn't let in the country. I mean, it was nuts. End of quote. Here we are again in maybe even worse than the Cold War. Halfway to number one, at the number 5 position, we have one of the biggest hit makers of the 80s. For a few years, it seemed like he never left the charts. It's Loverboy by Billy Ocean. When Ocean released his 1984 album Suddenly, the competition was fierce between Michael Jackson, Prince, Tina Turner, Bruce Springsteen, and of course later Madonna and Wham, George Michael. Well, in all of this, Billy Ocean's album Suddenly had the number 1 hit, Caribbean Queen, No More Love on the Run, parentheses song. And then this one, Loverboy, that went to number 2 eventually. And then the title track went to the top 10. Loverboy was his second single from the record. Suddenly was produced by Keith Diamond, and it crossed over to multiple charts this song. It went to number 20 on the Soul chart, went to number 1 on the Hot Dance chart. It also went to number 1 in South Africa for an astounding 11 weeks. Billy Ocean would hit number 1 spot 2 more times in the 80s with There'll Be Sad Songs to Make You Cry. There'll be sad songs to make you cry. And Get Out of My Dreams, parentheses, Get Into My Car. Out of my dreams. He was kind of the master of the parentheses song. He also had another big number 2 hit with When the Going Gets Tough, The Tough Get Going, another parentheses song. In at number 4 is a former co-leader of the Eagles on his solo venture, another in this top 10 from Beverly Hills Cop. It's the late great Glenn Frey with The Heat Is On. The heat is on. The heat is on. Now this song ended up peaking just 1 short of the number 1 slot. Glenn would experience the Bridesmaid Blues with his next hit, You Belong to the City. That went to number 2 as well. The Heat Is On was written for Beverly Hills Cop by Harold Faltermeyer and Keith Forsey, and they needed a big artist to sing it. The Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack album was on MCA Records, which Glenn Frey recently had signed with. Heat is on the street. MCA requested that several of their male rock singers audition for the lead vocal for this song. And Glenn Frey wasn't really excited about a cattle call, but he decided to go along doubting that they'd end up picking him at all. Apparently, many artists were said to have tried to get on this soundtrack or tried out for it. Competition was pretty big. Only Harold Faltermeyer, he was blown away by Glenn Frey's vocals, so he got the nod. To my ears, I always felt like the songwriters were definitely inspired by Van Halen's Panama on this song.
The heat is on. The heat is on.
Actually, listening to it for sure. That's a good intro to our number 3 song, The Man Who Helmed Van Halen with a Vengeance. I'm talking about the acrobatic, wild, and intense frontman for the ages, Mr. David Lee Roth, with his cover of the Beach Boys' classic California Girls. Now, after Van Halen released 1984, DLR went solo with the EP Crazy from the Heat. First single was this cover of California Girls, which got a lot of airplay on MTV with its swimsuit model session, if you will.
Well, these girls I really...
I thought it was a really good cover, actually. It had background vocals from Carl Wilson of the Beach Boys, as well as Christopher Cross of sailing fame. Brian Wilson, the genius, this is what he said about writing the music.
California Girls was probably the most inspired shuffle song. You know what a shuffle is?
Yep.
There's 88s. 88s are bump and chunk and shuffle beat is bump, you know? We got that from Bach.
In at the runner-up slot, it's a song that would eventually go to number 1. It's another big power ballad from American rock band Reo Speedwagon. It's Can't Fight This Feeling by Reo Speedwagon. Here's what lead singer Kevin Cronin told me about this song.
When I wrote the verses, they just kind of came out similar to Keep on Loving You, just like an unstoppable force. It just happened, and I remember feeling like, boy, this one has the potential to get into people's hearts and minds and souls and whatever. Now, you know, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but in that case, it did.
So interestingly enough, you can see Kevin of Reo perform this song, Tell the Story, along with all of his other classics, at our Professor of Rock Live event on April 1st. You got to get your tickets below. So this is a song that all of you in the community shared some great stories about. Screen name Hugo and me said, I remember asking for this Reo tape for Christmas in 1984. It was in my stocking on Christmas morning, so I didn't have to wait for the family to get up to open it up. I put it in my Walkman and I sat by the lit tree in the dark to listen to it. As soon as I heard Can't Fight This Feeling, I was hooked. I rewound and played it again and again and again. I remember going back to college and telling my roommate that it was going to be a huge hit song. She disagreed, but I was right. All the way to number 1. One of my all-time favorites from a band that I love.
Started out as friendship has grown stronger.
Viewer Tracy McMurray, she said, I was around 13 years old and I was pretty sure the guy that I had a crush on liked me. We were in a fast food restaurant and we played footsie under the table so neither of our families would know. And I Can't Fight This Feeling, that was the song that was playing. I love those memories. You just hear a song and it takes you right back there. Screen name Old Boy said, my first record was Reo's Wheels Are Turning. I was 8 years old when it came out. My dad purchased it for me. I love the artwork on the cover and I remember vividly watching the video for I Can't Fight This Feeling on MTV. You know, when they played music videos? My first power ballad, and let me tell you, I was feeling it hard. I was hooked on music after that song. My taste grew, but I never forgot Reo. Oh yeah, I still got the record too. Again, great stories as usual. I love these stories. So last time we had, I think, over 200 stories. Well, here we are at the number 1 spot. Drum roll, please. It's a British duo that took the world by storm a few months earlier with their first number 1 hit, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go.
Wake me up before you go, go. Don't leave me hanging on like a yo.
It's Wham, featuring George Michael with his heart-wrenching masterpiece, Careless Whisper, a true standard for our day. And George Michael would say, and I quote, I'm still a bit puzzled why it's made such an impression on people. Is it because so many people have cheated on their partners? Is that why they connect with it? I have no idea, but it's ironic that this song, which has come to define me in some way, should have been written right at the beginning of my career when I was still so young. I was only 17 and I didn't really know much about anything, and certainly nothing much about relationships.
I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got
Yeah, George Michael, he wrote it at 17 years of age. It's just incredible. Now, most Wham songs were written solo by George Michael. This one was also credited to Andrew Ridgeley. Even though the song was released off the duo's second album, Make It Big, it's also released as a George Michael solo single. It was credited in the US, like I said, as Wham featuring George Michael. Now, rumors flew at that moment that Wham was breaking up at the height of their fame, really. But Michael refuted that by saying that he wanted a solo career to release his soul records, while at the same time funneling his pop output through Wham. It's widely believed, though, that George gave Andrew Ridgeley a writing credit so that he would be financially secure for the rest of his life. Just amazing. Here's some of the stories from our community on this song. Screen name Dragon Landlord said, "Somehow my metalhead brother could always recognize Careless Whisper when I was listening with my Walkman. I never sang along, and you couldn't get the volume loud enough to understand the music if you weren't wearing the headphones. But the moment the saxophone started, he'd start teasing me about liking it." Very cool. Yeah, it's such a prominent sax line. Screen names Vintage Lizzie Girl, Mitch B, DM143, and several other viewers submitted memories about slow dancing with that special somebody to this song, whether it was an awkward middle school dance or a little later down the road. Careless Whisper is just one of those songs that takes them all right back to the days of young romance. I loved all those memories. Screen name DOA version 2.1 said, "The time when I just met a new girl and we just happened to have planned the party. The apartment was full of friends and friends of friends. I was the one that was keeping music going during the party. Now, sometime during the night, I put on Careless Whisper and I grabbed that girl's hand. We walked out the living room where no one was dancing. I pulled her in for a slow dance. Everybody in the room was watching, but I didn't care. Every time I play Careless Whisper, it takes me back to that night and that girl." Very cool. And then screen name Meaden77, hope I said that right. She requested a dedication saying, "My mom in the 80s was a huge Wham fan. She recorded a bunch of their videos on VHS. I remember watching many of those videos. Careless Whisper stood out. I was too young to truly appreciate it, but I was hooked by the feel of it. I'd like to dedicate this song to my mom, Barbara." We're going to do just that. This is dedicated to you, Barbara. So there you have it. The top 10 for this very same week back in good old 1985, as was said in Back to the Future. That was in 1955. There were some pretty cool songs on this particular chart, though, that didn't make it into the top 10, that were near their peak positions. And I'd like to include them in our equation if you're cool with it. Before we recalibrate the top 10, let's talk about them. The band Autograph had Turn Up the Radio. Great song. Keeping the Faith, the sixth and final single from Billy Joel's tour de force, An Innocent Man. There was Tenderness by General Public. Great song. There was also Foolish Heart by who I consider one of the greatest singers ever, if not the greatest, Steve Perry. All right, here we go. Let's put this through the recalibrator, and here's your new top 10 based on all-time views and streams. At number 10, it's Neutron Dance by the Pointer Sisters with 25 million. And number 9 is The Old Man Down the Road by John Fogerty with 29 million streams.
The old man is down the road.
And number 8 is Billy Ocean with Loverboy. I believe it was about 39 million streams. And at number 7 is a new entry, Turn Up the Radio by Autograph with 49 million streams. Number 6 is The Heat Is On by Glenn Frey with 65 million streams. Coming in at number 5 is Steve Perry with Foolish Heart. It's had an amazing 105 million streams. Number 4, it's a duet between Philip Bailey and Phil Collins with Easy Lover with over 300 million streams. Number 3, it's the Speedwagon, as Johnny Lawrence would say.
You like Speedwagon? What kind of man doesn't?
Reo Speedwagon with Can't Fight This Feeling with just under 1 billion streams. So it's going to be a battle here at the end between Wham and Foreigner, and I tell you, it was pretty close. Both are well over 1 billion streams and views. Coming in at the runner-up slot, it's I Wanna Know What Love Is with 1.2 billion streams. Which means the number 1 song is the very same with Wham featuring George Michael with Careless Whisper at 1.4 billion streams. That's the real top 10. So you can actually jump into the time machine and experience 2 of the top 3 songs from this countdown, the number 2 and number 3, firsthand at our Professor of Rock live events. This is truly for you guys. You get tickets for Kevin Cronin of Reo Speedwagon and Lou Gramm, the original voice of Foreigner. You can get those below. It'll be a lot of fun. We'd love to have you and see you. So how would you rank these top 10 songs? Tell us in the comments, and make sure to share your memories of these songs in the wonderful year 1985. I wish I could go back there right now. What other weeks should we do, or years should we do when we do another Redux? When we do a vintage years collection concept for 1985, who should we include? If we didn't get your dedication or your memory, we will. Bear with us. Share with us in the comments. We had like over 200, so it's very tough to get to them all. If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe so you can be part of our community together. Be sure to look us up on Patreon. Look at our merch. All of this is there to keep the music alive. That's our goal every single day. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.